looking for you. Okay, so we're going to start. Today's meeting of the Cuyahoga County Finance and Budgeting Committee for Monday, June 5th, 2023 is now called to order, and I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
And just as a reminder to all who are in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Mr. Jones. Here. Mr. Gallagher is absent. Mr. Shrine.
Here.
Mr. Kelly is absent. Ms. Turner.
Here.
There is a quorum.
Thank you very much. Item number 3 is public comment. Do we have anybody signed in for
No,
today?
Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
Thank you very much. And item number 4 is approval of the minutes from May 15th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for the May 15th, 2023 meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. And the minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Items referred to committee, Resolution 2023-0152.
Resolution number 2023-0152, authorizing an amendment to contract number 2101, formerly known as contract number 203, and CE 1700172 with Dell Incorporated for a Microsoft Enterprise Agreement, licensing, renewal, and support for the period 7/1/2017 through 6/30/2023 to extend the time period to 6/30/2026, and for additional funds, the amount not to exceed $9,219,554.46.
So, my colleagues, first of all, I'd like to apologize for calling what we expect to be a quite short meeting for one item, but for reasons that the director will explain, this item is a matter of urgency that needs to be taken care of. So I will call upon the director to explain the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Andy Johnson, Chief Information Officer for Cuyahoga County. I do want to thank you all for appearing today and having this special meeting. So we'll get into that here in a minute on why there is the urgency with this issue. But thank you for your attendance this afternoon. So what we're here to talk today about is our Microsoft Enterprise Agreement. And while the legislation calls for Dell, mentions Dell, Dell is the authorized retailer for this Microsoft agreement. So you might hear me mention Microsoft. This is what we're talking about here. So again, thank you for your time this afternoon. So only a couple slides on the agenda. First, I'm going to walk through what is a Microsoft Enterprise Agreement. What's in that? Why is that so important to us? And then the second slide I'll talk about is what's in that Microsoft Agreement is specific for Cuyahoga County, and what is the reason that we require that, and why there is a slight sense of urgency on this particular issue. All right, so what is a Microsoft Enterprise Agreement? I think you all are familiar with Microsoft as a company and what Microsoft operating system. It runs the majority of PCs and in not only in our personal lives, but here at the county. We have a strategic relationship with Microsoft. It is our choice of operating system. It is what runs not only our personal PCs, where there's about 5,500 within the county, not only runs those PCs, but also runs things like our servers. It also controls things like our antivirus. It controls things like our security. It controls all of those infrastructure items except for the hardware that enable us to run software, to run applications, to get emails, to do Teams. That's what our Microsoft Enterprise Agreement is all about, and why that is so important to the county. So a little bit of just a brief history on the Microsoft Enterprise Agreement here at Cuyahoga County. This was originally signed in 2017. This was when we used to have individual licenses. Every product that we had from Microsoft was individually licensed. Back at that time, in a very positive mood for the county, that was combined under one agreement, the enterprise agreement. Doesn't include all the Microsoft products, but includes the majority that are used by most of the employees of Cuyahoga County. Mentioned again that Dell was is the retailer for this. And so where the sense of urgency comes up is that our current agreement expires June 30th of this year. And you may say, hey, why are we waiting to the last minute to do this? And that certainly is not waiting to the last minute to do this. Microsoft is a very large corporation. There has been negotiations that have been going on for a year about a year leading us to this point. So it's a matter of working with Microsoft. It's a matter of getting what do we want? What are we trying to tweak? What are we trying to change? What are we trying to achieve? Working through all those agreements with a large moving vehicle like Microsoft took time, and it took a lot of time. And so we kind of got down to the last minute here, but I think that we've gone through a very well thought through agreement, and I think you'll see that I think we're in pretty good shape with this agreement. I do want to mention that our current payments are, our previous amendment was $8.46 million. That's over 3 years. And so on the next slide, I'll talk about what our current arrangement is. So if you remember that number, 8.46, and that averages out to $2.82 million per year. I'll pause there. Any questions on where we're at, why that urgency, why we needed to have this meeting today, which again, I'm very grateful for.
Just wondering, when did the negotiations start?
I would say approximately a year ago. I'm going to look June of 20, yeah, so June of 22, so about a year. And I will mention that Microsoft is our largest vendor in the IT space.
Continue.
All right, so what this slide is indicating is what is our current, or what does our proposed enterprise agreement amendment look like? And I'll start off by talking about, well, the fact that this is under an Ohio State contract. So this has been competitively bid. Dell is the primary vendor for most of the state of Ohio. But let's take a look at what really matters, right? And that's the cost. And so with our new agreement, we're looking at a $9.21 million agreement that's over 3 years. And that comes out about $750,000 more than our prior 3-year agreement. Represents about 8.8% increase. So why do I feel good about that? Well, I feel good about that because in April of 2021, Microsoft announced for the first time they are increasing their price on Office 365. And that's the first time in the 10-year history of Office 365 that Microsoft has announced an increase. And in general, they were looking at between 11 and 20% increase. Now, we came in at 8.8% increase, and that's really through our working on downgrading some of our licenses. There were some licenses that perhaps were too advanced, and we were able to reel those back in and give a little bit more of a basic license. So we worked with Microsoft. That's what took some time to reach this agreement, is where could we scale back and where could we improve on some areas. And so we feel good coming out with an 8.8% increase when the majority of licenses went up 11 to 20%. But we also got some benefit out of this too. There was 3 really major areas. When I think of areas that we came out ahead on, I think about our compliance, and I think about things like our data loss features, right? We're talking about compliance. We're talking about, record retention. We're talking about the ability to look through historically and retrieve records. And, the state of Ohio has plenty of compliance issues there. This new agreement gives us the tools to better do that, better serve the client, or better serve the county in terms of retrieving a lot of those records. Data analytics is the other thing that comes to mind as to where did we get some advantage, right? Data analytics within Microsoft allows us to look at how are we using the licenses, how are we using the data, how are we using our infrastructure better, more productively, where can we scale back and where do we need to scale up? Analytics was improved with this new agreement. And then finally, Teams audio. I know, Chair, you appreciate the features of Zoom, but I will say that with this new enterprise agreements, we do get some better features with Teams. One of those in particular is the ability to make calls. So I think that is something that is an advantage that is part of this new enterprise agreement. I'll pause there for any questions.
Any questions by my colleagues? Okay.
So the other thing I just wanted to point out, just so you get an understanding of what we're spending our money on, if you take a look at the pie chart, that gives a breakdown of where, when we talk about the Microsoft Enterprise Agreement, of where that money's going. So you can see that Office 365, things like Outlook, Word, Excel, those user productivity tools that are on everybody's desktop, that's the majority of what we're talking about here. But there are slices for Azure, which is our cloud services. So, with Azure, and I know that sounds like a fancy term, but that's just really moving some of our servers to the cloud. And that is certainly a trend that is happening in the industry, and that's something that we hope to take advantage of. And so rather than, although I will probably do it at some point this year, come asking for capital, if we go to Azure Cloud, we allow somebody else to manage that, to own the hardware, own the software, and do the upgrades. So you'll see a slice in there for Azure. But you also see a slice in there for our server and our data center. The software that runs servers, the software that runs our data centers is different than what sits on someone's desktop. And so that's where that enterprise agreement covers as well. So hopefully that gives you, when you think about the entirety of this agreement, hopefully that gives you an idea of what are those pieces that make up that entire pie. The other thing I just wanted to briefly mention is that this is not just for the executive branch. When we talk about this Microsoft Enterprise Agreement, it is for a very large part of the non-exec agencies as well. Courts, public defender, board of election are covered by this agreement. And so we at the county IT have that responsibility to work from the best possible deal for these folks as well. And in fact, I have it called out there. We have about 5,300 licenses, individual licenses for Microsoft. 3,300 of those are for, 3,300 of those are for the executive, 2,000 of those for the non-executive. So we aren't talking about the entire county here.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, that is all I have for you, but happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions or comments?
You didn't mention the prosecutor's office. Are they a part of this as well?
That's a great question. Prosecutor is not part of this deal. There's some technical reasons. They are basically on their own domain, their own Active Directory. So they do use a large part of our network. We basically bring the internet, the network to their door. We give them space in our data center. So we are very strong partners, but the prosecutor is one entity that is not under this agreement. And we are in talks about how do we change that, but that's a big lift at this point. Good question.
So, Director, I do lots of Zoom meetings. They work seamlessly. I do them from home a lot. But last week I had a very important meeting on jail statistics coming out of the courts, and they organized the meeting and they set it up as a Teams meeting. And I decided I just better not try to do this one from home just in case there's a technical problem. So I came into the office to do it with Jim Boyle up in the council office, and they set it up, and and they could hear us, but we couldn't hear them. And we had to call in the IT people. And they came in and they had to fiddle around with it for quite a while. And after 10 minutes or so, they got it to work. And if I had tried to do it at home, I probably would not have been able to do the meeting. So I recognize the importance of this contract. It's very basic stuff. I'm in favor of passing it on second reading, a suspension. But just one request, just don't try to tell us we can't do Zoom meetings.
So first of all, I apologize for the trouble that you had, and I will talk to our team and try to understand what that difficulty was. I will say that Zoom licenses cost additional, right? That's on top.
I understand, but so far they're worth it in terms of the ease and the reliability. So if there's nothing else, I'd like to ask if someone would like to make a motion to favorably refer 23-0152 to the full council on second reading suspension. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to favorably refer Resolution 2023-0152 to the full council with recommendation for second reading suspension. Any further discussion?
You're going to have to join us with Teams. Dale. I'm sorry, but the rest of the world is moving to Teams.
Couldn't miss the opportunity to make me sweat up here, right, Dale?
I was trying to take a little pressure off you because I fought the Zoom Teams thing also, but our entire team went to Teams meetings probably a year ago, and begrudgingly I am there with them at this point.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. The ayes have it and the resolution is referred to the full council for passage. It's on the agenda pending referral for tomorrow night's council meeting.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And again, I appreciate all of your time today. Thank you.
Our pleasure. And under miscellaneous business, just one thing to make everybody aware that 1 week from today, we are going to meet again in Finance and Budgeting Committee. And at tomorrow's council meeting, the council president is going to refer the special fiscal agenda item, which appropriates about $3.3 million for the Board of Elections for the special election to be held on August 8th. So we're going to discuss that in Finance and Budget a week from today. So anybody else have any miscellaneous business? Hearing none and with no further business before the committee, we are adjourned. Thanks very much, everybody.